Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well. You amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. It's me. You're looking absolutely amazing. I hope you're having an
Appreciate you saying that, Harsh, even though I don't have my Pavarotti's on, man. It's nice of you to comment on that, brother.
amazing week. It's boiling hot here. It's like 30. It's going to be like 35 degrees C here today, which for us Brits, mate, we can't handle it. We can't handle it. We moan about the rain, moan about the wind, and then when it's hot, we moan about it being hot. Never happy.
Now, I'm not picking hairs here, Harsh, but, it's not that easy for us to convert C into Fahrenheit. So is there any way you could convert that for us? What is 35C in Fahrenheit? I don't remember the calculation off the top of my hand. Never mind. Keep going.
Never happy, but anyway, you're going to be happy after the. Well, some of you might not be happy after the video because some people tell your story, right? So I get an email a few days ago from someone who's supposed to be an investigator, proper investigator, sends multiple emails out with loads of stuff every day and multiple people, and just happen to include something about the spat between me and Jay Ombre, to which I have to say, you do realise that what you're talking about, Jay Ombre literally had to, well, he didn't have to, bless him, but he did. He issued a public apology because what he'd seen me say, he'd kind of misconstrued and came to a conclusion that wasn't right.
And it wasn't right, and I way overanalyzed the situation. Now, I will add, though, that the reason Pav keeps his emails clean is because I can imagine the emails that y'all get on a daily basis from these folks wanting to control the narrative. So that's one of the reasons why I thought, maybe it had impact, but I had absolutely no right to even suggest that it did, knowing that Harsh is a very smart individual and he's not going to be pushed in one direction or the other by these folks. So definitely was an apology that needed to be made by me, and I appreciate you acknowledging that, Harsh. You the man, bro.
So he did what he did. Subsequently, I did the same with referencing the fog light situation.
Yes, he did, and I appreciate Harsh so much for taking the time to look into that and come to that conclusion, because I think that's a big thing that we all can be on the same page about, and I appreciate Harsh for taking that into consideration and looking at it again. Hey, look, you got a window commercial here, Harshy.
Renewal by Anderson. Right now, get a guaranteed interest rate of 0%.
So that's buying a buy. So this person then emails back and is like kissing us, do you know what I mean? Literally like all over it. And then today, literally, I wake up, go through the emails like I normally do, my fans, get this email basically saying, oh, everything I said about Harsh Reality was wrong, don't watch him, he's contradictive, he thinks Brian Koberger is guilty and there's loads of evidence against him. And what did he do? Quoted the exact same video that had led Jay Ombre to make the very same mistake. That's the kind of people that are around this case. But that's my morning, and it's not even 9 a.m. But anyway, let's get into this video, because in this video we're talking about things that can coexist and things that can stand on their own. And for that, I have to, again, pit myself beside Jay Ombre, Pav. Because, again, Pav has been an individual who was firmly set in the belief that the Idaho 4 case is a D-Rugs and gangs hit, if you like. We'll say hit. Easier than me trying to think of a better word. And what I will categorically say is I absolutely understand where Jay Ombre's coming from. He's done the research, he knows what he's talking about, he's got loads of stuff that he's clearly looked into and come to a conclusion, and for that reason he's firmly set in that belief, and a belief that I feel, if that's what he believes, it should be shown the respect that that's his belief, and who am I to say otherwise? But there's me who's on the other side, and I lean into a different situation and feel that this is potentially frat and fraternities, Greek system, university, lying and covering things up and hiding behind their power. And
let me just clarify this for Harsh, right? Because I believe that absolutely everything he said there was 100% correct. And I mean everything he said there was 100% correct, because I believe that my investigation shows that the second that this crime was over, everything that he's talking about from the time the crime is over until the 911 call and beyond is absolutely tied in with fraternity involvement, university involvement, cover up. It's all part of it. I believe the reasons for it are different, though. I believe the university wanted to cover this up. I believe that they contacted people in the university first who contacted law enforcement, and that's where this big cover-up has come from between the atrocity and the 911 call. Make no bones about it. I know that the black Ford Explorer pulls in at 429. I have a real strong inclination who was driving it and why these things are needing to be covered up from that time period until the 911 call. So I do believe that that aspect is there. However, to say that this is a cover-up because of frats and university things, and then you have to take into account, you've got the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, all of these national organizations involved in this case that would be participating in the cover-up. To think that they are covering up for some frat boy nonsense for no reason other than to protect the university is, in my humble opinion, not really looking at things from a 10,000 feet view like we all want to look at things from. But I want to address some specific things, because Harsh is a very smart man. I agree with everything he's saying. I think we're closer than he thinks. But I do want to address some of the things that he's going to be talking about in this video as it relates to evidence, and why I think it would be important for us to come together as a community and ignore the fake evidence that we were led to believe in the beginning for the actual evidence that's now been revealed to us. So, and here's what I mean as we get into this.
The reality here, I feel, is something that often gets overlooked. And that is because, as Cy Ray apparently said, and that two things can be right at the same time, and he believed that, as far as we're aware, unless all of the information that I've got has been misconstrued and the stuff that I've seen is fake, then Cy Ray believes Brian Kohberger's guilty. But his stance is two things can exist at the same time, and that Brian Kohberger is guilty, but the very structure and the very system that put him where he is today is corrupt, and there was lies and there was
Well, this is where I disagree wholeheartedly with Cy Ray, because two things can't be true when you've got unknown male blood in a crime scene, unknown fingerprints left in blood in a crime scene, when you have multiple weapons used in a crime scene, when you have autopsy reports and blood analysis that proves multiple individuals were in this crime, and the main piece of evidence against Brian Kohberger is not what Cy Ray can analyze as far as his CSLI. The main piece of evidence against Brian Kohberger is a minuscule piece of touch DNA on a knife sheath, but on the back of the sheath, the blood DNA is ignored, and the fact that Brian Kohberger drove a white Hyundai Elantra. Don't ever let that fact get by you. The white Hyundai Elantra is the crux of the prosecution's case, and we have destroyed the fact that they said it was his car so many ways from Sunday. I don't see how anybody could even contemplate Brian Kohberger was even a participant in the crime. But let's continue.
Actors around it. And that seems to be Cy Ray's stance. And until I hear the words come directly out of his mouth, if he's still going to appear on the Custody Queens, then I'll retract my statements. But I've seen enough evidence and spoken, and we'll leave it there, and we'll let Cy Ray tell his story. But look, two things can exist at the same time, but not everything can exist at the same time. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I do not believe that you can have a cartel or Aryan gangs or this kind of dynamic in the Idaho 4 case without there being a fraternity, sorority element to it. And I think that anybody who thinks that that is possible is missing the glaringly obvious issues that there are around this case. And that is that you have an incredibly powerful entity and everybody that's connected to it behaving in weird and wonderful ways. And some of the things they're doing would very likely have got them, I don't know, in trouble with the law. Like, case in point, Steve Gonsalves to Scott Reich, literally at CrimeCon, stating that he is aware of a prison hit on Brian Kohberger. The guy is drunk.
And if there was a prosecutor worth their salt in Idaho, they would bring charges against Steve G for conspiracy on that. You're right, Harsh.
On camera, and they are his words. And I'll be speaking more about that subject as he seems to backpedal Billy. Yeah, I'll be talking about him later, so keep your eyes peeled. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, hit the notification bell and all that jazz, because we're going to be going balls deep in... No, I'll leave it there. I don't want you thinking about stuff like that. Bloody hell, mate. So with respect of the kind of the gang element of it, I don't think that can exist in a world where you see so many issues around the case that points directly at the college and the students around it. We've seen victimology sort of interviews that are literally chipping away at the very fabric of the case.
Okay, so there's point number one. We've seen victimology interviews that are half-hearted with all of the people in the case, from the MPD and the ISP detectives. What we're failing to acknowledge right here, though, Harsh, is when you look at the police reports, it says that the FBI began their own victimology interviews on the 15th of November. We have never seen any of those. Those, in my humble opinion, are the real victimology interviews. What you're seeing from the MPD and ISP detectives much later on are dotting I's and crossing T's in the case. The real case that we've never got to see, but there is highlights of it in the police reports of, like I just mentioned, the FBI conducting victimology interviews on the 15th, tells you what I believe is the truth. And what we're seeing is the fiction that they want to put in front of our eyes.
One of the latest interviews that we saw over on Connor's channel literally has one of them decimate the timeline or the story that you've got around the case.
Now, this is where I really want to dig in, because this is where I think fact and fiction needs to work itself out. Because I don't know how anybody can listen to the interview with Peter and still believe the things that they believe around the frat fight and all of that. Peter literally puts Ethan and Xana still at Sigma Chi, with Ethan still wearing his black coat from the formal up until almost 1:30. Now, we don't know after they left Peter's place from 1:30 what happened and when they got back to the King Road residence, but we can now definitively put Ethan and Xana at the Sigma Chi house up until almost 1:30. And there's no frat fight. There's no them going back to the King Road house and having pizza like, Mr. Kernodle suggested. And when you look at the police report on Kernodle, when they interviewed him, he said he hadn't even talked to Xana since I believe it was Thursday. So all the things that he talked about in court was just a father that wanted to say some things to make himself sound tough to Brian Kohberger. It doesn't actually go along with any facts in the case. And I would think that the actual interview from Peter would eliminate all of the misconceptions people have had around 4chan posts that could have been written by any idiot that was following just some basic things in the case, maybe even seen that news report where Kara Kernodle, of all people, who, give me a break, she was saying to the news that her husband said that maybe they were in a fight and all that kind of stuff. Somebody on 4chan could have seen that and then wrote that long 4chan stupidness, and we've all been following it since the beginning, and it doesn't even have any relevance to the case. There never was a frat fight. I mean, we've listened to 100 interviews from these kids now. Not anybody's mentioned anything about an argument. There's nothing to do with Barracoa and Loach. I mean, it's all just a big farcical thing. And that Peter interview, I thought would prove it and get people to stop even considering it. But for some reason, we've got this mindset around, well, wait, but we've got the 4chan post. Come on, Harsh, you're better than that, bro.
Saying that Xana and Ethan left this party and then went to his house and then left his house at 1:20 in the morning and then went straight home, which is a few minute walk, while understanding and appreciating that in the early stages of this case, you've literally got Xana Kanoodle's dad would say that they left the party, the frat party, because there was a fight. She was scared, and the only reason that this parent didn't drive over to make sure they're all right is because they'd been drinking. But they'd gone home, got Pete.
And he probably said all this because he'd been drinking, and I hate to dog on Jeffrey Kernodle, but when I watch him even in the hearing or in the sentencing hearing giving his victim impact statement, I've been around enough people that are drunks my whole life to be able to identify when somebody was drunk, and in my humble opinion, he was even drunk in that hearing.
Yada yada yada, and so we now hear that there's backpedaling in that. Some people in chat, I don't know how true it is, but said, no, this was a different day. This was a different. Oh, that's fuck.
Yeah, it was. It was Thursday, and in the police report, when he was interviewed at Moscow PD, when he actually had the ability to look at his phone, he told them it was 2 days prior.
Inconvenient that that's now a different day, so that doesn't make any sense. And let's just, as a side note, look at the situation around, and I mention him a lot, and that is little Timmy Reed, kicked the shit out of by
Harsh. Little Timmy Reed had the entire Vandal football team come over and whoop him because he was throwing racial slurs. I mean, the fact that the whole football team whooped him and only had a big knot on his eye because he was throwing racial slurs, I don't see how you can even, and that happened much later than this, but I don't see how the two events are even similar, man. I mean, good grief. I remember when I was in college, and if there was a kid talking to the football team, calling them a bunch of racial slurs, Timmy Reed got off really easy, in my humble opinion.
Vandals, that tries to get pushed under the rug. The parents go public. You see 1 or 2 reports on it about what's going on, and then poof, disappears like a fart in the wind again. Gone. Nothing. No more, no further reports. So I can only imagine that there was some money handed over and the rest is history. But 50 people turns up at this lad's place and kicks the shit out of him. Puts
50 people, almost exactly, how many people are on a football team, Harsh. When you make a football team mad, you're getting your butt whooped, brother, in America.
Him in hospital. And yeah, there's nothing. No, there you go. And the DoorDash driver that also smashed the shit out of and ended up dying twice on his way to hospital. But you don't
There's probably something to that DoorDash driver, though. I'll give you that.
Or see anything about that either, and that gets turned into something else. But anyway, that's by the by. Just want to show you this as well. Well, we're on this little bit of a rant. Because, yeah, this is a rant. This is the University of Idaho. The University of Idaho operations yield a massive $2.7 billion statewide economic.
Well, then I know we can go into all of the budget and everything for the University of Idaho, but the University of Idaho does not have enough money to influence the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, the OCD ETF, Josh Hurwitz. Come on, man. When we think about this in large terms, absolutely two things can be independent of each other and still have correlation to each other. And I believe in the theory that I put forward and the evidence that I put forward to back that theory up. It explains the advantageousness of everybody involved and why they would want this thing to go away. Just a university theory alone only explains a small portion of it. Just the drug hit theory alone only explains a large portion of it, but it doesn't explain the university cover-up even though it kind of does. But I believe that what happened after the crime will absolutely tie in the university. But I just wanted to go over that because I thought this was an interesting take that you have on these things. And I was thinking that maybe we can get to a point now that we have enough information with interviews from these students that literally place people at certain times at certain places. Well, we can wipe out all the 4chan stuff that we heard in the beginning that obviously had no merit. All of the Jeffrey Kernodle and the pizza stuff had no merit. Let's get down to the real evidence in this case, in my humble opinion. Thank you so much, Harsh. I appreciate you. I look forward to joining you on that live. Folks, let me know your thoughts on this. Pav's out.